During a summit meeting, important figures from many nations were in attendance, and Iris saw it as her one chance to escape her captor. Hiding in the bushes, she watched intently, her eyes locking on a man in ornate clothing who was clearly a person of great wealth and status. Maybe, she thought, this man has the power to stand against that monster. Seizing her moment, she rushed out in front of him. "Sir, I'm begging you, please take me with you." The girl looked so pitiful it was impossible not to feel for her. The man looked down at her. Do you know who I am?" Iris looked up at him, startled. He leaned down, his voice low. "You want me to take you in?" He gripped her chin, a small smile playing on his lips. "So, are you any good at pleasing a man?" Her other hand clenched the dirt on the ground. With a bitter expression, she answered in a trembling voice, "No, but I can learn." The man looked at her, amused. "You're honest, at least. An unattractive woman should learn to make up for her lack of looks with skill." He stood up. "Even if you're not a monster, you should at least pretend to be one." This man was far more dangerous than she had imagined, but what did it matter? At least he wasn't her sworn enemy. In the distance, the sound of soldiers' voices grew closer. They were looking for the runaway Iris. The man glanced toward the soldiers and instantly guessed the identity of the girl's current master. Afraid he would change his mind, Iris grabbed his sleeve. "Please, I don't want to go back. I'll do anything." The man stopped her, speaking calmly. "My advisor told me not to cause any trouble during the summit. But how can I turn a blind eye to a woman in distress?" He tilted her chin up. "Are you sure you don't want to return to your master?" After getting a firm nod, the man stood and called out to the soldiers. "Hey, over here, are you looking for her?" A soldier approached, looking confused. When he saw the man, his eyes widened with respect. "We are looking for this woman, Your Majesty, King Heinrich, the legendary tyrant." He smiled and pointed at Iris. "Then you can take her away." Just as the soldiers were about to rush the girl, the volatile Heinrich suddenly spoke, his voice cold. "Wait." He reached out and grabbed the soldier by the neck. "I want you to take a message to the Crown Prince of the Magandi Empire. Tell him this lady is now my pet." Before the soldier could react, the tyrant lifted him off the ground, squeezing his neck as he sneered, "No, on second thought. It's better to keep this a secret to ensure I can take my new pet home smoothly. And no one keeps a secret better than a dead man." A life was extinguished just like that. The tyrant was a demon in human form, one who seemed to take pleasure in the act of killing itself. He walked back to Iris, hooked her chin with his finger, and declared like a conqueror, "You are mine now." Then he pressed his lips to hers. The tyrant pulled away from Iris, looking pleased with himself. "You're a bit dull, but you'll do. At least you didn't shrink away in fear. That's not bad." "Your Majesty, I've been looking all over for you. What is—" Kuri rushed over, stopping when he saw the girl kneeling on the ground. He gave a troubled reminder, "Your Majesty, I've told you many times, this is the World Summit." The tyrant acted as if he hadn't heard. He spoke with unnerving calm. "Kuri, if no one sees the body, it won't cause a political incident. You know what to do." Kuri had seen this kind of scene many times. The tyrant was used to doing whatever he pleased. Before leaving, he gave one last order. "Clean this up and bring this woman with you. She's my new pet." The Heinrich Empire was a rich and powerful nation on the continent, bordering the Magandi Empire. After being brought back by the tyrant, Iris wasn't summoned. For several days, she followed Kuri's instructions, staying in her room and studying the history of Heinrich. Iris knew this couldn't last forever. Rather than waiting passively, she decided to take the initiative. She stepped out of her room, ready to find the tyrant herself. But the moment she opened the door, she saw Kuri. "Lady Iris, His Majesty has summoned you. Please come with me." This was a rare opportunity, and Iris was determined to make the most of it. In the center of the Grand Palace Hall, the tyrant sat on his throne, toying with a small knife. A pet should always be within its master's reach. Iris knelt on the floor and said respectfully, "Your Majesty." But this seemed to displease him. His expression darkened. "Are you that afraid of me?" Facing the mercurial tyrant, anything she said could anger him. Iris decided to take a risk, moving forward to grab his hand and act cute. This time the tyrant was satisfied. "You're a clever one. You've already learned how to please your master." Iris finally let out a breath of relief. But before she could relax, the tyrant commented, "You're filthy." He then lifted her into his arms. "Come bathe with me." In the enormous bathhouse, the tyrant sat lazily in the water, a wine glass in his hand. Iris stood on the steps, her face flushed, and slowly walked toward him. "Your Majesty, let me help you." A tyrant is a tyrant after all. Before she could even reach him, he yanked her forcefully into the water beneath him. "What positions do you know?" It was such a shameless question that Iris didn't know how to answer. The tyrant twirled a lock of her hair. "Is that a difficult question?" Iris was stunned into silence. "It's not," the tyrant said, pinching her chin. He commanded, "Now do everything you can to please me, just like you pleased the King of Magandi." "The King of Magandi?" Hearing that name, Iris's entire demeanor changed. She said seriously, "Your Majesty, I must make one thing clear. I never submitted to the king of Magandi, let alone pleased him. Back then, I was still the princess of the Rikil kingdom. That beast proposed to me, and after I refused him, he flew into a rage and destroyed my country. He slaughtered my family and my people, and I was left to live in humiliation. How could I possibly try to please the monster who destroyed my home and family?" The tyrant asked curiously. "Then why are you willing to kneel at my feet?" Iris explained patiently. "Your Majesty is not the one who destroyed my country. That alone makes you 1,000 times better than him." The tyrant let out a small laugh. "What is the king of Magandi worth? How dare you even compare him to me?" "Your Majesty, I meant no offense," Iris said nervously, afraid she had angered him again. Seeing the disdain in his eyes, she thought, "He must be powerful. I can use him for my revenge." The man bit her shoulder as a punishment. "Your Majesty, I will remember my place." The man before her was a ticking time bomb. One wrong move could cost her her life. The tyrant looked at the obedient woman, his mood improving. He lifted her gently, his face close to hers, and whispered intimately, "It seems my pet is quite sensitive." He then pulled her up higher. "Let me clean my pet properly." Iris was overcome with shyness and squeezed her eyes shut. The tyrant moved to take her right then and there. Not wanting to be completely ravaged in the bath, Iris desperately tried to stop him by pressing her lips against his. She didn't know what she did wrong, but the tyrant suddenly flew into a rage, grabbing her by the neck and forcing her head under the water. She had never met such a twisted man. To punish her for her disobedience, he held her down until she was about to suffocate, then pulled her back up. Iris gasped for air, sputtering. The tyrant looked down at her, his voice harsh. "Pet has no right to move without permission. That was just a small lesson. Don't let it happen again." Iris had nearly died for a so-called lesson. She collapsed in the water, looking utterly pathetic. The tyrant looked down at her. "If you're this fragile, you're no fun. I don't like delicate pets." Not wanting him to lose interest in her, Iris forced herself to rally. "Your Majesty, it's because I know so little about you that I don't know how to be an interesting pet." The man looked at her curiously. She continued with determination. "If we spend enough time together, I can adjust myself to become the ideal pet that meets your desires." The man lifted a strand of her hair. "My pet, you're very clever. No wonder you survived when all your relatives died." Hearing him mention her family, her pupils dilated. He caressed her cheek. "What's wrong? Is that an angry look?" Facing a man who killed without blinking, every word she spoke was a gamble for her life. She didn't dare resist, forcing herself to remain calm. "I rejected the Magandi king's proposal, and my father refused to ally with him. That was our choice. My kingdom may have been small, but we never gave up resisting the invasion. Even though we failed in the end, we are still proud of what we stood for." Her defiant words meant nothing to him. He pushed her onto the tiled floor, looking down at her. "The fact is, your country and your people were destroyed. They died for their beliefs and their honor." He seemed to be deliberately trying to provoke her, leaning close to her ear to whisper, "There is no honor in death." He then gripped her hands tightly, pressing his body down on hers. "A princess who cannot protect her own country and people is not worthy of the title." The girl saw through his intentions and bit her lip, saying nothing. The man continued, "And your father, for the sake of his daughter's happiness, sent his people to their deaths. In the end, his daughter still became a prisoner. How utterly foolish. Her father was her breaking point. No one was allowed to insult him." Tears streamed down her face as she struggled against him. "You can humiliate me, but you cannot insult my father." The man watched her cry, amused. "Angry? Did I strike a nerve?" He gently wiped the tears from her eyes, his tone softening. "Don't cry. The truth is always painful, and tears won't solve anything." She clenched her fists. "Your Majesty's words are harsh, but there is some truth to them. You just shouldn't have slandered my father. That is my line." A mere pet dares to talk about lines with her master? Ridiculous. Why don't you show me your sincerity instead? If you please me, perhaps I'll not only spare you, but also help you get your revenge." The tyrant was a genuine psycho. The torment in the bath during the day wasn't enough, he continued it in the bedroom at night. Iris stood nervously by the bed in her nightgown. The tyrant lay on the bed, propping his head up with one hand. "Now show me what you can do." For the sake of revenge, Iris had to temporarily set aside her dignity. She clenched her jaw, took a deep breath, and stripped off her clothes, shyly walking toward him. The man seemed pleased with her body. "Not bad." He beckoned to her. "Come here." The moment she neared the bed, he pulled her down, pinning her beneath him. The inexperienced girl struggled in pain. "It hurts!" she cried out, hoping he would stop. The man looked down at the bashful girl as if he'd discovered something new. "You're so tense, like a little rabbit cornered by a beast," he said with a laugh. He pinched her cheek. "A blushing rabbit, a little interesting." The girl looked up innocently, too nervous to make a sound. "I'll leave the rest to your imagination." A few hours later, the girl groggily opened her eyes. When did I fall asleep? Is it over? She rolled over, hiding her face in the pillow. He's too much. My whole body aches. Just then, the man beside her leaned in. Seeing her exhausted state, he showed not a shred of pity. Don't think it's over just like that. She turned her head, shyly asking, Your Majesty, what else do you require? The man placed a finger on her lips. I don't like my pet falling asleep before I do. So tell your master a few bedtime stories. To make her understand the seriousness of the situation, he grabbed her neck, feigning viciousness. If you dare to slack off, I don't mind snapping your neck. Faced with such a brutal man, the girl could only nod in understanding. She sat up in bed, telling one bedtime story after another. When she saw his eyes begin to close, she shook her head vigorously to stay awake. But perhaps it was the constant fear during the day, or the exhaustion from the night. Her voice trailed off as she was speaking. Beside her, the man's eyes snapped open. They say a tyrant's temper is unpredictable, but it seemed a night of intimacy had taught him a bit of tenderness. Today was another day that began with being jolted awake by a nightmare. Iris curled up under the covers, crying softly. But cruel fate didn't allow her to bow her head. She forced herself to calm down. When she turned to look at the other side of the bed, the man was already gone. Iris felt a wave of relief. She had actually survived another night. On the pillow next to her was a note. It was from Curry, informing her that a literature tutor was being arranged for her. Not wanting to keep them waiting, Iris quickly dressed and went out. But the palace was so vast that she quickly got lost. Thankfully, she saw a few maids cleaning up ahead. She was about to ask for directions, but then she remembered her peculiar status and hesitated to get involved with others. She stood there and sighed. Beautiful lady, why do you sigh? Is there anything I can help you with? A man with a refined air walked over. Faced with the stranger's greeting, Iris wasn't shy and explained her predicament. The man was very patient. The reception hall is quite a distance from here. Why don't I take you? Iris politely thanked him, but the man just smiled. It is my honor to be of service to such a beautiful lady. Beauty? Perhaps anyone would be proud to possess it. But for Iris, it was the source of all her tragedies. Because of her damned beauty, her country was destroyed and her family was killed. She couldn't help but murmur, one day to be buried in the dust of time, since beauty and grace have abandoned me. She then added, almost unconsciously, watching others grow while you wither away, nothing can withstand the poison of time. Seeing such talent in the young woman, the man asked curiously, You've read the classics of the Heinrich Empire? The sudden question surprised her. I had the good fortune to read them while I was learning the Heinrich language these past few days. Just then, the door to the reception hall opened from the inside and Curry walked out. Why are you two standing out here? The man looked at Kiri happily. I'll take this student you've recommended. He then turned to the girl. Let's reintroduce ourselves. I am your future literature tutor, Vanderland. Hello, I'm Iris. After they exchanged greetings, the man's demeanor changed, becoming serious. Now for your first lesson, there is no room for kindness or trust in the royal palace. I hope the conversation we just had does not happen between you and anyone else. Thank you for your guidance, teacher, Iris said, looking at him respectfully. Before leaving, Vanderland added, Since we've met, you can go back for today. We'll begin our official lessons tomorrow. Curry pointed at Vanderland, adding a helpful bit of marketing. Lady Iris, Marquis Vanderland is an excellent teacher. You will learn a great deal from him. With that, the two men bid her farewell and headed into the reception hall. Watching them leave, the girl's earlier gloominess vanished. Her fighting spirit rekindled. She would get along well with Marquis Vanderland and Sir Curry from now on. For a week, Iris studied Heinrich's culture with Vanderland every day. To better survive in the palace, she was also secretly gathering information about the tyrant. She hadn't seen him in a week, and she never expected their reunion to be under these circumstances. The man walked toward her with a dark expression, a bloody sword in his hand. As he approached, Iris was startled but quickly composed herself. Good evening, Your Majesty. Do you need me to help you bathe and change? What's that supposed to mean? Are you saying I'm dirty right now? The man asked angrily, pointing the sword at her. The girl clasped her hands nervously. Of course not. I just want to make you happy. I'd probably be happy if you were dead. She lowered her head, took a deep breath, and then looked straight at him. Your Majesty, would my death truly make you happy? If my death can appease your anger, then I am willing to die by your sword. A wicked smile appeared on his face. After all, she said, looking him seriously in the eyes. I, your humble pet, live for you. Live for me. Her words took him by surprise. Could someone truly be willing to give their life for him, even if it meant such a lowly death? He feigned fierceness. In that case, I want you to die. He placed the sword against her neck. She stared right back at him, showing no intention of flinching. From her days of observing him, she knew that the tyrant loved to see others fall into despair. If someone showed no fear of death, he was more likely to let them live. Even as the blade cut into her neck, she showed no sign of fear. The man lowered his sword. "Get on the bed." She had gambled correctly. With a smile, she said, "Your Majesty, please allow me to wash off the blood first." But the man suddenly pulled her close, touching the wound on her neck. "It's still bleeding." She looked at him in surprise. What was he doing? He licked the blood from her neck. "You said you live for me, so I'm ordering you. Do not bleed again without my permission." His sudden tenderness was startling, as if he wasn't the same person who had just held a sword to her throat. Iris tried to stand up, leaning on him. "I'll go clean myself up so I can continue to accompany you." The man held her hand, not letting go. "Don't move." He licked his lips. "Your blood is as sweet as honey wine. It's making me rather excited." He then shifted position, pressing himself tightly against her. "Let's just sleep like this." She was hoping for a peaceful night's sleep. But for some reason, the tyrant started acting like a devoted lover. He hugged her from behind, burying his face in her hair. "Tell me, what's your name?" She slowly turned her head toward him. "Your Majesty, my name is Iris." The girl was so obedient and lovely that he was instantly pleased. He looked at her with a serious expression. "As a reward for your loyalty, I permit you to call me by my name, Abel." The man was so unpredictable that she couldn't tell if his request was a trap or a command. She sat on top of him, hesitating to speak, afraid one wrong word would set him off again. Her hesitation displeased him. "Say my name," he urged. She looked up at the ceiling shyly. "Abel." Hearing her say his name brought him great pleasure. He kissed her shoulder. "Always remember, Abel is your master." In the palace, Iris studied the culture of the Heinrich Empire with Vanderland every day. The days of learning passed quickly. After finishing today's lesson, Vanderland was about to leave when she called out to him. She presented him with a small gift box. "Teacher Vanderland, Sir Curry told me you often suffer from insomnia. I know a little about incense. This is rosemary. It helps with sleep. Please give it a try." Vanderland looked at her warily. "Lady Iris, are you trying to win me over?" She could only offer an awkward smile. "If you see it that way, then yes. I'd like to be friends with you, teacher. Becoming allies and friends requires both parties to have equal strength. You're not there yet, my lady." Just when she thought he would refuse her, he accepted the gift with a smile. Vanderland looked at the box, quite pleased. "But for the sake of the gift, I can offer you one more lesson." He leaned in and whispered, "In the palace, you must learn to see and hear everything. For instance." Following his gaze, Iris looked toward a nearby staircase where a woman was hiding and eavesdropping. Iris gasped, covering her mouth in shock. The man then gestured with his finger. "Lady Iris, I will not answer any more of your questions." The woman eavesdropping by the stairs held a fan, looking at Iris with contempt. "So that's His Majesty's new favorite?" Her maid answered respectfully, "Yes, Lady Bella." The woman was attractive enough, but unfortunately all her brainpower was spent on jealousy. She glared at Iris. "I'll make sure she's torn to pieces soon enough." Night fell, but the tyrant still hadn't appeared. Usually he would have summoned her early. Iris began to suspect he wasn't coming tonight. To confirm, she opened her door and found the maid on night duty. "Rosa, is His Majesty coming over tonight?" The maid yawned, then spoke with a sudden burst of energy. "Lady Iris, His Majesty went to Lady Bella's chambers. Lady Bella is the palace's first lady-in-waiting. She's a master perfumer, and most importantly, the scents she creates can soothe His Majesty's moods." Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, the tyrant lay quietly with his head in a woman's lap. The room was filled with a fragrant aroma. With his eyes closed, he said softly, "Today's scent is very nice. You may leave." The woman beside him felt honored, pleased that she could help ease the tyrant's burdens. She was expected to leave immediately as usual, but this time she put on a sad expression and said slowly, "I was worried that after using the new fragrance blended by Lady Iris, you might have forgotten all about me." The woman realized the tyrant didn't know Iris could also blend perfumes. She feigned surprise. "His Majesty didn't know? I happened to see her give a bottle of perfume to Marquis Vanderland today, and I just assumed." As expected, her scheme worked. After hearing her words, the tyrant angrily smashed a nearby teacup. He couldn't understand how the obedient girl from a few days ago would dare to carry on with another man right under his nose. Feeling deeply insulted, he sat up and stormed out, heading straight for Iris's chambers. The woman behind him covered her mouth, pretending to be innocent. Once he was gone, a triumphant smile spread across her face. Everyone in the palace knew one thing: no one survived the tyrant's wrath. Iris was doomed tonight. On the other side of the palace, Iris was oblivious to all of this, completely unaware that her actions from the day had become a weapon for another woman to use against her. She lay in bed ready to sleep. Just as she closed her eyes, her door was violently kicked open. The tyrant stormed in, his face contorted with rage. He ripped her from the bed, grabbed her chin, and snarled, "This time you've really angered me." He then pulled out a pink ribbon from somewhere, tied her hands tightly, and suspended her from the bed frame. The girl was completely bewildered, looking at him with pitiful eyes. "Your Majesty, what did I do wrong?" His eyes were murderous. "You'll find out soon enough." A short while later, she was completely bound by the pink ribbon, naked and kneeling shamefully on the bed. The man stared at her coldly. He tried to unbutton his own shirt, but growing impatient, he simply ripped it off. He slowly approached her and, ignoring her pained cries, took her on the bed. Afterward, the man's mood seemed to improve slightly. He looked at her and asked suspiciously, "As my pet, how dare you try to please others behind my back? I had no idea you were seeing other men." Clearly, the tyrant was blinded by his damned possessiveness. The woman who had been spying on Iris during the day had reported her gift to Vanderland. The man violently yanked her head up to look him in the eye. "If you lose your loyalty to me, you will soon lose your life." After being tormented for so long, Iris couldn't stop crying. But she had been through worse. As long as there was a sliver of a chance to survive, she would not give in. Perhaps he was too rough, or perhaps she was too fragile, but she began to tremble and cough uncontrollably. He chuckled. "I'll allow you to leave some last words." He tightened the ribbon. Suddenly, the girl fainted. He touched his chin. "You dare to play dead?" He then shook her head roughly. "If you don't wake up, I'll kill you right now." But she didn't react at all. He reached out and touched her forehead. Maybe it was because she was naked, but she was burning up with a fever. The thought that she was too weak to handle either his favor or his punishment annoyed him. Damn it, how irritating. He lost all interest and untied the ribbon from her hands, gently cradling her in his arms. He sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, thinking. Just then, a young maid walked in with a grim look on her face. "Rosa, is there any news from Iris's side?" The maid stammered. There is news." Bella held up a finger, a smile on her face. "How did she die?" "Lady Iris is not dead." Bella's face darkened. She turned to look at the maid. "Not dead?" His Majesty stormed into her chambers. "Did nothing happen?" His Majesty and Lady Iris were together all night. He didn't leave until dawn, and he even called a doctor for her. Hearing this, Bella threw the nail file she was holding. "Get out! All of you, get out!" she shrieked, jumping to her feet with a murderous look in her eyes. "Iris, you have some skills after all. I really underestimated you." The thought of Iris rising in power and making her useless was unbearable. She would not allow it. She had to get rid of Iris. In her chambers, Iris slowly opened her eyes. She was grateful to see the sun once again. A servant walked in with a bowl of medicine, her face lighting up when she saw Iris was awake. Iris slowly sat up in bed. The servant kindly reminded her, "Don't worry, my lady. The doctor said you just caught a chill and were overly exhausted, which is why you fainted. You need to rest well." The servant was a stranger. Iris had never seen her before. She glanced around the room and noticed that all the servants were new faces. She looked at the young maid. "Where are the servants who used to work in my palace?" The maid looked uncomfortable. "Ah, well." Just then, Sir Curry walked in. "You may leave. I need to speak with the lady alone." He then walked slowly to the bed. "You seem to be recovering well, my lady." Seeing Curry, Iris was happy. "Sir Curry, thank you for visiting me." "You should thank His Majesty. He's the one who called the doctor for you." Thinking of the new faces in her palace, she looked at Curry. "By the way, do you know where my old servants went?" Curry tilted his head, thinking. "They've been executed. You fell ill and they were unaware of it. That was their failure." The thought that her illness had indirectly caused so many deaths filled her with sorrow. Curry tried to console her. "You don't need to feel sorry for them. Disloyal servants always start with intentional negligence. One day it would have led to a devastating betrayal." The people the tyrant had moved into her palace were mostly spies he had long wanted to eliminate. He was just waiting for a reason. But the hidden truth of the matter was still a huge blow to Iris. She couldn't accept such a brutal act. Was the man's heart made of stone? Not wanting His Majesty to be so misunderstood, Curry explained, "My lady, there is a reason His Majesty is never merciful. Turns out the tyrant had once been as innocent as any other child. When he was young, the person he trusted most was his nanny. He would pick beautiful flowers for her and she would hug him and tell him how happy she was. But this woman, who was like a mother to him, was secretly a spy sent by his enemies. With a dagger in her hand, the nanny killed his mother right in front of him. Then she looked at the little boy with murderous eyes. Abel is such a good boy. You won't make a sound, will you?" Thankfully, the royal guards arrived just in time, or the little boy might have been killed too. The nanny was captured, but he had lost his mother forever. He knelt on the ground and cried his heart out. "His Majesty has such a past," the girl said, her eyes wide with surprise. Curry looked at her and continued, "That's all in the past. Now the Heinrich Empire is strong and prosperous. Other empires may seem respectful on the surface, but they are wary of us. Spies and assassination attempts are common in the palace. If His Majesty shows mercy to others, Who will show him any compassion? The girl looked lost. I never knew any of this. Buri looked at her with a serious expression. In any case, Lady Iris, never betray His Majesty. He is the only person in this palace you can truly trust and rely on. 3 days later, Vanderland arranged to have a lesson with Iris in the garden. When she arrived, her teacher was already there, painting. She looked at him, confused. You asked me to meet you in the garden. Are we practicing painting today? The man smiled and turned to her. No. I just saw that this patch of tulips was in full bloom and wanted to capture them at their most beautiful. She looked closer and saw that they were a rare variety of golden leaf tulips. They are truly beautiful, she praised. Vanderland stopped painting and looked at her as she approached. Speaking of which, thank you for the perfume you blended last time. Its scent, much like today's flowers. Perfume? What perfume? Vanderland, what are you doing? Before he could finish, he was interrupted by the approaching tyrant. Even Teacher Vanderland seemed afraid of angering the tyrant. He became nervous and quickly changed his tune. Your Majesty, forgive me. I was just giving the lady her lesson, and we happened to be discussing the fragrance of these flowers. The tyrant stood with his hands on his hips, looking at the flowers with indifference. I was wondering what's been making me want to sneeze lately. It must be the pollen. Someone, get these tulips out of here. Plant potatoes instead. Your Majesty, golden leaf tulips are extremely rare. It would be a shame to dig them up. It is no great loss. Once the potatoes are harvested, I shall have the chef prepare 100 different potato dishes for you to sample. Yes, Your Majesty, Vanderland conceded with a sigh. Seeing the girl standing by, seemingly lost in her own world, the tyrant angrily pulled her to his side. He angrily dragged her to his chambers and threw her onto the sofa. You dare to give Vanderland perfume behind my back? He then grabbed her by the neck. You'd better give me a good explanation or else. Your Majesty, you've truly wronged me this time. That perfume was originally blended for you, the girl said, looking at the fierce man with teary eyes. Blended for me? He asked, his face a mask of disbelief. She stood up from the sofa and walked to a nearby cabinet. Your Majesty, please come with me. She opened the cabinet, revealing rows of different perfumes. Your Majesty, these are all perfumes I blended for you. Ever since she realized Lady Bella was the one spying on her, Iris had prepared for this, knowing Bella was her first enemy in the palace. The man looked at the cabinet full of perfumes, pleasantly surprised. With a regretful look, Iris explained, Your Majesty, I have always been grateful to you for saving my life, and I wanted to give you these perfumes I blended myself. But then I heard you have a personal perfumer whose scents you exclusively use, so I never told you. Her explanation completely charmed him. He reached out and hugged her. You're a grateful little thing, aren't you? Have all these perfumes sent to my chambers. The tyrant then issued a decree that he would no longer require Bella to blend perfumes for him. And just like that, the palace woman was cast aside. When Lady Bella heard the news, she was furious. She was certain this was all Iris's doing, a clear attempt to take her place. Her maid nervously looked at the fuming woman. My lady, what should we do? Bella stood thinking for a moment, then ordered her maid to bring the scented pouch from her iron box. She decided to pay Iris a visit herself. When the palace woman suddenly came to visit, Iris prepared a full table of refreshments to welcome her. Bella put on a sisterly act. Sister Iris, I've been wanting to visit you for so long. She then took a wooden comb from her pocket. I heard from His Majesty that you also know how to blend scents, so I brought you this sandalwood comb as a welcoming gift. Iris waved her hand. Sandalwood is the finest of scented woods. A comb made from it is too precious. I can't accept it. There are only 2 of us in the palace who understand fragrances. This comb is most fitting for you. The palace woman was a true master of manipulation. It was their first time meeting, yet she acted as if they were long-lost sisters. Play along, Iris had no choice but to accept the comb. In Heinrich, it was customary that if someone received a comb as a gift, the giver should personally comb their friend's hair to deepen their bond. Bella used this custom to suggest she comb Iris's hair, and Iris lowered her head, saying it would be her honor. While combing her hair, she deliberately asked if Iris had any green gemstone hair ornaments. As Iris searched for the accessory, Bella stepped back and secretly dropped 2 pink-scented pouches on the floor. In a great mood, the tyrant called out her name before he even entered her chambers. A maid hurried out to greet him. Your Majesty, the lady was very tired tonight and has already gone to sleep. The tyrant waved her away. You may leave. He walked to her bedside, intending to scold her for daring to sleep before him, but seeing her sleeping so peacefully, he couldn't bring himself to disturb her. Just then, the girl on the bed became agitated. Even if I die, I will not submit to you. Hearing her mumble in her sleep, the tyrant assumed she was dreaming of him. A small smile touched his lips. He leaned in, his face close to hers. If your dreams frighten you so much, then the best thing to do is to wake up and see. What kind of person says that? The tyrant was both cruel and arrogant. The man's cold hand brushed against her cheek. It felt nice, and she groggily opened her eyes. So hot. The delicate girl was incredibly cute. The tyrant couldn't help but think that his half-asleep pet had a certain charm. In a sleepy voice, she said, "You're so cool. It feels good." He tempted her. "Then you can get closer." Under his subtle guidance, she pressed her entire body against his, wishing she could merge with him. She looked at him shyly. "Like this?" "No, not close enough." Hearing his response, she boldly removed his outer robe and wrapped her arms around him tightly. With a beautiful woman in his arms, practically begging for it, the tyrant was no saint. He couldn't take it anymore. "Iris, you asked for this." He then began to engage in some indescribable activities with her. Her performance tonight was a pleasant surprise for him. Afterwards, he leaned close to her face again, his hot breath driving her crazy. She desperately wanted to kiss his cruel lips. The tyrant was intrigued, deciding to tease the disobedient little kitten. "You like it? Want more?" Iris made a sound like a kitten. "I like it." "Good girl, who am I?" Was this man ever going to stop? Just then, she mumbled something in her sleep, crying out in pain. "Elric, don't leave me." The woman he was with was calling another man's name. The tyrant couldn't stand it. He grabbed her hands angrily. "Take a good look. Who am I?" His voice was so loud it could have shattered the windows. The half-asleep Iris was jolted fully awake. She looked at him in shock. "Your Majesty, what happened?" The tyrant's face was grim. "Who is Elric?" He furiously dragged her out of bed. "A disloyal pet is useless." Iris, just waking up, was completely lost. "Your Majesty!" she cried out in alarm. The man was consumed by rage. He ignored her struggles and dragged her to the balcony of their chambers. "I'll ask you one last time, who is Elric?" "She's my sister." "Your sister?" the tyrant asked, confused. He had been enraged over a single name, and Iris was terrified by his reaction. She felt it was completely unreasonable. She hadn't done anything wrong, but at least he had calmed down now. She explained slowly, "Yes, Elric was my younger sister." Having been betrayed by his nanny as a child, the tyrant had become deeply mistrustful and despised traitors above all else. A contemptuous smile appeared on his face. "You just mistook me for Elric and begged me not to leave you, and now you're telling me it's your sister's name? Do you think I'll believe you?" He shoved her against the balcony railing. "I hate liars!" She desperately grabbed his arm. "I'm not lying. You can check the Rekill royal family records. If you don't find the name Elric in my family tree, I will accept any punishment." The tyrant was always unpredictable. Every moment with him was like dancing on the edge of a knife. Her explanation did nothing to convince him to let her go. "My dear, I have a question. If your answer satisfies me, I'll let you live." "Please ask, Your Majesty." He lifted her chin. "Who do you love more, me or Elric? Don't lie." Her sister had been stabbed to death right in front of her. No matter how much she had begged, her enemies had shown no mercy. But that was her closest sister. If she lied, she might live. But Iris didn't want to betray her feelings for her family. She chose to remain silent. But the man was clearly not joking. He gripped her hand tightly. "Tell me your answer." All her family was gone, but she, the one who had survived, was not happy. She lived in fear every single day. In that moment, she couldn't hold it in any longer. Tears streamed down her face. "Your Majesty, Elric is already dead, no matter what. And I am trying my best to love you. Why must you make this so difficult for me?" His face darkened. "So your choice is Elric?" She looked at him with determination. "For now, yes." He gave a cold laugh. "Then you can go join her." Before she died, she gave the tyrant one last piece of advice. "Your Majesty, the next time you keep a pet, make sure she is as cold and heartless as you are. That way she won't have any attachment to her family." After she spoke, the man shoved her off the balcony without a hint of mercy. "Save those words for hell." As her body fell, she gave up struggling. He turned to leave. "This is the price you have to pay." But after a few steps, he turned and walked back to the railing. He undid the top 2 buttons of his shirt and jumped off the balcony after her. It turned out there was a swimming pool below. After falling into the water, the girl could have survived with a little effort, but faced with the man's cruelty, she had lost the will to live. She let her body sink to the bottom. Just as she thought it was all over, the tyrant who had jumped after her caught her sinking body and gently breathed air into her mouth. She had survived again. She looked at the man who had saved her in disbelief. "Why did you save me? I don't need a reason to kill you or to save you." The man was as willful as ever, always impossible to predict. A moment later, his mood brightened. He pulled her into his embrace and began to kiss her neck. "You don't need to understand me. You only need to please me." And then the two of them became intimate in the pool. In the morning, the girl woke up first. The man beside her was still asleep. She turned on her side to watch him. replaying last night's events in her mind. She realized he must have known the pool was below the window all along. He probably hadn't really intended to kill her. It was just another lesson. In that case, there was still a chance to win him over. A short while later, the man woke up too. He looked at her gently. "You're awake? What were you thinking about just now?" "I was thinking that your majesty isn't as bloodthirsty as the rumors say." She took his hand and placed it on her cheek. "After all, you did save me in the end, didn't you?" Why had he suddenly changed his mind and spared her? The tyrant himself didn't know what had come over him, but even though he had done it, as the king, he couldn't let anyone see through him. He pulled his hand away. "Don't think you know me so well." He got out of bed. "Get your strength back. I don't like frail pets." A tyrant who can't be honest with his feelings is a rare sight. Seeing his awkward display, Iris found him almost cute. After he left, she thought carefully about the events of the past few days and felt something was strange. She rarely had nightmares before, but ever since Bella's visit, she had become drowsy, had frequent nightmares, and felt mentally foggy. She had checked the comb Bella had used on her hair and found nothing wrong. If Bella was trying to harm her, she couldn't figure out how she had done it. Then a memory surfaced. Bella seemed to have done something while she was looking for something else. In another part of the palace, Bella was relaxing on a sofa, enjoying some incense. Just then, a maid rushed in frantically. "Sister, what brings you to see me today?" Bella feigned surprise as she looked at Iris. "I saw the lilies in the courtyard were blooming beautifully, so I picked a bouquet for you, sister." "These flowers are indeed lovely. Someone find a vase for these." "Aren't you going to offer me some tea, sister?" Iris teased. "Of course not. Come, this way, please." Bella greeted her with an awkward smile. "How have you been lately, sister?" Iris put on a troubled expression. "To be honest, I've been having nightmares lately and I wake up feeling exhausted. That's not good. Have you seen a doctor?" "Sigh, His Majesty almost killed me a few days ago. No one in the palace dares to get close to me now." The woman took a sip of her tea. "Don't worry, I will always be your good sister." Iris pretended to be happy. "You're so good to me, sister." The woman looked at her with a meaningful expression, thinking, "Don't worry, my dear sister. Soon you won't have to worry about any of this. After all, you're about to die." In the palace, the tyrant was sitting on a sofa, reading. Curry burst in. "Your Majesty, Lady Iris is suddenly vomiting blood, please." What a troublesome little lamb. The tyrant stood up nervously. "Has the doctor seen her?" "The doctor is already on his way." Before he even entered the room, the tyrant called out her name, but she was lying unconscious on the bed. Bloodstains on her lips made her look so fragile, as if a gust of wind could carry her away. The tyrant looked at her anxiously. "Lorian, what's wrong with Iris?" The man was terrifying. The doctor stammered, Your Majesty, Lady Iris has been poisoned." "Are you saying someone tried to murder my woman?" He then turned to Curry. "Curry, I'm giving you 3 days to find out the truth." He went back to her side. "What kind of poison is it? Is there a cure?" "Your Majesty, I am incompetent. I don't know what poison she was given, nor do I know the cure." The doctor was sweating profusely with nervousness. Hearing this devastating news, the tyrant's face darkened as he looked at him. "Then there's no need for you to live either." "Your Majesty." The girl suddenly woke up. "Your Majesty, I'm about to die. Please don't cause any more bloodshed. Without my permission, even if you step through the gates of hell, I will find a way to bring you back. Don't think you can escape like this." The girl held on with her last bit of strength. "Your Majesty, I want to stay by your side forever." The tyrant answered urgently, "I permit you to stay with me forever." "In the next life, I promise I will." And then her voice faded. "Yes," the tyrant cried out in agony. He held her tightly, his body shaking uncontrollably. The tyrant held her, kissing her forehead devoutly. He, who was supposed to hold life and death in his hands, was now like a small dog afraid of being abandoned, calling her name over and over, his gloomy eyes filled with sorrow. It was just like when his parents had left him, and at the tender age of 4, he had to ascend the throne. He was too young to command respect, and many coveted his position. The government was unstable. Rebellions were frequent, and the people were plunged into darkness. It was then that the innocent little boy transformed into the feared tyrant. Because in this world where the strong devour the weak, only power could command respect and pull the country out of turmoil. Sitting on the throne for so long had hardened his heart. But the girl's appearance had changed everything. Without him realizing it, she had taken over his heart. Whenever something happened to her, he was overcome with pain. He looked at the girl before him in disbelief. She was just a pet he had saved on a whim. "Ha, Your Majesty, I see you again." Iris suddenly woke up. The tyrant frantically grabbed her hand and pressed it to his cheek. He was overjoyed, mumbling, "Your hand is warm. Iris, are you really alive?" She leaned against him weakly. "I went to a very dark place. There was a big door in front of me, and I think I lost consciousness and started walking towards it. Suddenly, I heard someone calling me from behind, and I regained my senses and woke up. She looked up at him shyly, her eyes full of affection. Was it your Majesty calling me? The tyrant excitedly grabbed her left hand. Iris, it was me. Your Majesty, perhaps it was destined. To me, you are a greater being than God himself. You brought me back from the brink of death. From now on, I belong only to you, from my body to my soul. Her confession delighted the tyrant, who was new to love. Iris had initially planned to use the ruse to lead him to discover Bella's scheme, but she had unexpectedly discovered that he was very receptive to sweet talk. It seemed this was a fruitful endeavor. Your Majesty, although I survived this time, the person who harmed me, he gently touched her lips with his hand and said firmly, don't be afraid. I've already sent people to investigate. The person who hurt you must pay the price. Just then, Kuri rushed into the chambers. Your Majesty, we found the poisoner. In her chambers, Bella was lounging on the sofa by herself. Having heard that the girl was dead, she was laughing out loud. She's dead. She's finally dead. Thinking about how the girl had inspected the things she sent several times and found nothing suspicious, Bella couldn't help but smile. That fool must not even know how she died. The comb and the sachet weren't poisonous on their own, but when they're together, they become a deadly poison. She then leisurely picked up her teacup. From now on, His Majesty is all mine again. As she was lost in her fantasy, the tyrant kicked open her door. Guards, drag her out! Bella was startled. She looked at the tyrant with a wronged expression. Your Majesty, what have I done wrong? Even if I am to die, I want to know why. The tyrant pointed his longsword at her. You put poison in her teacup, intending to murder Iris. Poison in the teacup? Kuri has already investigated. The day Iris visited your palace, you poisoned her teacup. He then threw the cup at her head. This was found in your palace. Bella looked at the shattered porcelain on the floor and frantically explained, this cup is from my palace, that's true, but on that day I didn't. Sister Bella. The girl snuggled against the tyrant, looking at the woman on the floor with a pitiful expression. When I first came to the palace, you always took care of me. I thought of you as a sister. Why would you want to harm me? As she spoke, tears streamed down her face. If I did something to displease you, you could have told me, and I would have changed. Why are you even talking to this venomous woman? At this point, what is there to argue about? With that, the tyrant was about to strike her down. Just then, the girl walked over to the woman. Your Majesty, I'm new to the palace. It's not good for me to see blood. Since this is a matter between us women, why don't you let me handle her? The tyrant lowered his sword. Fine, I'll leave her to you. Before leaving, he couldn't help but remind her, don't be too kind. Once the tyrant was gone, Bella's true nature resurfaced. Bitch, why aren't you dead yet? The girl held up the items Bella had given her. You thought you could kill me with these little tricks. If I'm not mistaken, these two items are harmless on their own. But when used together, they cause endless nightmares leading to madness, and eventually death from a shattered mind. Am I right, Sister Bella? If she had figured it all out, why was she still poisoned? And what was this about poison in a teacup? Bella looked at her, confused. The girl chuckled. Sister, you really are incredibly stupid. I'm the one who put poison in the teacup, but it wasn't real poison. It was a suspended animation drug, unique to my home country. Sending the flowers to Bella was just a pretext. Her real goal was to frame her. With this move, she not only used the tyrant to get rid of Bella, but also gained his pity. That was Iris's way. If someone tried to harm her, she would retaliate with equal force, never showing mercy to her enemies. Since the tyrant had left her in charge, the girl returned the comb and sachet to Bella and had her imprisoned in a dark room. After doing all this, Iris turned to leave. Behind her, Bella was like a madwoman, screaming, Iris, don't get too happy. His Majesty will never fall in love with any woman, including you. A man's love? In the darkness, the girl stood aside, a faint smile on her lips. Early in the morning, Kuri rushed to find Iris. Unaware of the situation, Iris greeted him happily, but Kuri was frantic. He told her that ever since Bella had poisoned her, His Majesty had lost all trust in the palace's ladies-in-waiting and was going to execute them all today. Kuri begged Iris to save those innocent people, since she was the only one whose words the king would listen to now. The tyrant's cruelty once again shocked Iris. Being kind-hearted, she couldn't let him commit such a massacre. She nodded in agreement and rushed to the palace. In the hall, the ladies-in-waiting were kneeling in neat rows, their heads bowed and trembling. The tyrant's authority filled the entire room. Just as he was about to pass sentence, Iris walked in with a bright smile. I have good news for you. Seeing Iris, the tyrant's eyes filled with affection. Come here and tell me. The women in the palace were truly pitiful. They had done nothing wrong, yet they were about to be executed just because the tyrant was in a bad mood. Iris felt a pang of sympathy as she walked past them. The tyrant happily wrapped his arm around her waist. Iris, what did you want to tell me? She playfully poked his chest. The potatoes in the garden have sprouted. Will you come see them with me? He turned to the people on the floor. I will deal with these ladies in waiting when I return. The tyrant cheerfully took her hand and led her to the garden. He looked at the potatoes sprouting from the ground with a satisfied smile. Not bad. Potatoes are indeed much more interesting than those tulips. He suddenly thought of Vanderland. When the potatoes were harvested, he would have to invite him for a taste. Beside him, Iris pointed to one of the plants. Your Majesty, look. That potato plant is growing crooked. The tyrant gently reassured her. It's just one crooked plant. It's not a big deal. Iris continued. Your Majesty is so benevolent. I thought you might rip out the entire patch just because of one bad potato. Are you blaming me for implicating the other ladies in waiting because of Bella? He asked, looking at her carefully. Iris threw herself into his arms and assured him she didn't blame him. She just felt that his actions would harm his image among his subjects. He laughed. I don't care. Iris looked at him anxiously. But I care. You are not a cruel person, just forced by circumstances. I don't want others to misunderstand you anymore. Iris was the first person to truly understand him, and he was deeply moved. But there was likely more than one Bella among the ladies in waiting. He couldn't let them off so easily. The tyrant had clearly been swayed, but to ease his concerns, Iris suggested they find a way to test their loyalty. She wanted to test them on his behalf. That's a good idea. The tyrant nodded, gesturing for her to continue. Iris demurred, saying she couldn't tell him. It was a secret between women. In high spirits, they took another walk around the garden. At one point, the tyrant suddenly looked at her. Iris, how will you treat the loyal and disloyal ladies in waiting? Iris spoke seriously. The loyal ones will naturally be kept and nurtured. The disloyal ones can simply be killed. She didn't know where she went wrong. But the tyrant suddenly asked, Iris, do you want to save these women? Although the tyrant was cruel, he was not a fool. Iris froze, unsure how to answer. Seeing her predicament, he said she could handle them, but on one condition. What condition? She asked, her heart filled with worry. He stepped forward and gently caressed her face, his voice harmless. Be my target. A moment later, Iris was standing on the lawn with an apple on her head, trembling. She was too scared to look at him directly. This displeased him. To avoid angering him, Iris forced herself to stay calm, saying she wasn't afraid, and that she trusted his archery skills. She was terrified, yet she was still pleading for the lives of others. The tyrant lifted her chin and asked her once more if she was really willing to bet her own life for the worthless lives of those women. Iris stuck to her decision. The tyrant sneered, though it was unclear to whom. Overestimating yourself. Just as he was about to shoot, Iris cried out, stopping him. She said she wanted to switch to a smaller apple, that she truly trusted him. Once the apple had been placed back in its original spot, the tyrant shot an arrow at her. Every crisis was also an opportunity for Iris. Only by saving these ladies in waiting could she move forward with her plans. She was betting her life. The arrow struck the apple, knocking it to the ground. Iris had won her bet. She ran happily towards him. The tyrant caught her in his arms, his voice tight with tension. Iris, you are never to gamble with your life again. She poked his chest. I wasn't betting on my life. I was betting on your heart. Suddenly, he tossed her into the air, then caught her and carried her into the chambers, pushing her down onto the bed. Iris's face turned red, and her small hands clutched his clothes. Your Majesty, it's daytime. Please don't. He gently kissed her lips. Does the time matter? He then kissed her fiercely. Iris, I've thought of a new game. A new game? Before Iris could react, she was stunned by his wild words. He playfully twirled a lock of her hair and said he wanted to paint, using a human body as his canvas. He then used a candle flame to burn away her dress. The girl was shocked, her face so red you could squeeze water from it. She instinctively covered her chest with her hands. The man gently pressed himself down on her. Iris! His voice was soft enough to kill. As his hand slid across her tender skin, the tyrant sighed in fascination. Your body is excitingly beautiful. Iris was too nervous to move. Sensing her shyness, he leaned down and whispered in her ear, What should I paint? The man was in high spirits. No matter how reluctant she was, for the sake of her goals, she shyly looked away. Your Majesty, I've heard that the silk tree flower represents eternal love. I like that meaning. The tyrant moved to her shoulder. You want to be with me forever? A wicked smile played on his lips. Very well, I will grant your wish. In a great mood, he lay on top of her and began to slowly trace the outline of a silk tree flower. The sensation made her squirm. The tyrant was having fun, gently stroking her back, making her jump. Then, like a devout follower, he reverently kissed her waist. After a night of passion, Iris was so tired she could only lie flat on the sofa. She couldn't help but complain that the man was truly a beast. A maid, seeing her condition, suggested she summon the palace maids later. Iris forced herself to sit up, ignoring the soreness. No, have them come over now. She felt she had to deal with this hard-won opportunity as soon as possible, before anything else could go wrong. A short while later, all the palace ladies in waiting had arrived. Iris sat in the main hall. His Majesty has ordered me to test your loyalty. My test is simple. Some of these mushrooms are poisonous, and some are not. Choose one and eat it. A gentle smile touched her lips. Those who live are loyal, those who die are not. The women's faces turned pale. No one dared to step forward. Then, a woman in a black dress stood up. All the mushrooms were poisonous, yet the girl in the black dress ate one and didn't die, while the girls who didn't eat suffered a terrible fate. The young woman boldly ate the poisonous mushroom. She was certain she wouldn't die. Lady Iris was just using this as an excuse to save the innocent. The mushrooms weren't really poisonous at all. A faint smile touched Iris's lips. You will stay. The rest of you may leave. Someone will arrange for your new placements. Iris was very pleased with the result. After the others had left, she kept the girl in the black dress behind. The girl's name was Sophia, a renowned animal tamer in the palace, whose skills surpassed many men. In fact, female animal tamers were a rare talent in this world. Moreover, based on her performance just now, the girl was courageous and skilled at analyzing situations. Anyone would admire her. Iris told her she was very pleased with her and wanted to take her under her wing, to work exclusively for her from now on. Work only for you, my lady? Lady Iris was clearly trying to recruit her. Sophia's eyes widened in disbelief. She instantly understood everything. The lady had saved this group of women to select reliable confidants for herself, and she had just been chosen. But the palace was a place where people devoured each other, and she didn't dare to agree so easily. Iris saw the hesitation on her face. She placed a hand over her heart and promised that if Sophia was absolutely loyal to her, she would be her support in the palace. As long as she was alive, she would protect her and would never break her promise. Although she didn't know Lady Iris well, her sincere eyes were not deceiving. Besides, this could be her chance to change her fate. In that moment, the young woman made her decision. She strode toward Iris. All right, I'm willing. Iris was very satisfied with this outcome and immediately gave her her first task. Later, maids brought in some beautiful outfits. Iris's eyes were drawn to a long red dress. The maid holding it couldn't help but praise. If my lady were to dance in this, His Majesty would surely be delighted. Hearing this, an idea sparked in Iris's mind. She had never shown her talents to His Majesty before. Dancing was a good idea. After all, she needed his power, so she couldn't let him get bored of her. She immediately sent someone to invite the tyrant over. You had a servant summon me. It had better be important, the tyrant said, a hint of impatience in his voice. Then his eyes fell on her, and for a moment he froze. The girl was wearing a long red dress, dancing gracefully, as beautiful as a goddess from the heavens. The tyrant subconsciously grabbed the sleeve of her dress, then took her hand. Iris leaned into his arms like a little bird. The tyrant bent down, looking at her with interest. Dressed like this, did you just want to dance for me? Iris looked at him like a kitten that had been caught misbehaving. I genuinely wanted to dance for your majesty. Forget it. I'd rather see you please me in bed. Without another word, he ignored her protests, lifted her onto the bed, and pinned her down. Iris's face turned red as she made a final struggle. Your Majesty, it's really not a good time today. It's that time of the month. The tyrant's gaze darkened. Then I'll be leaving. Does your Majesty really not want to see me dance? He sat up on the bed and turned to leave. A woman dancing is all the same. But Iris didn't believe him. She grabbed his sleeve. Your Majesty, is your interest in me only physical? Hearing this, the tyrant's expression suddenly turned grim. Iris, you used to be somewhat interesting, but now you're no different from all the other women who try all sorts of tricks to keep me here. Also, in the future, don't summon me unless it's important. I don't like being disturbed. The tyrant's mood changed in an instant. Just a moment ago, it seemed he was falling in love with her, but today, it felt like they were back at square one. How was she supposed to deal with such a volatile man? Iris thought that perhaps there was one person who could help her. The next day, Iris went to find Curry. The flowers here are blooming so beautifully, Iris remarked casually. Hearing this, Curry frowned. Lady Iris, I doubt you invited me to admire the flowers just for the sake of admiring the flowers. Sir Curry is as perceptive as ever. I wanted to remind you that the ladies in waiting are now safe. Curry bowed in thanks. You asked me to save these women. It wasn't just out of kindness, was it? Sir Curry must have wanted to test my abilities. Have I passed your test? Curry paused. Compared to the other women in the palace, you are indeed the most suitable ally. To think that the tyrant's most trusted advisor would propose an alliance with her. Iris wondered if he was in some kind of trouble. But Curry simply said that serving His Majesty meant that even if there was no trouble today, there would be tomorrow. He was just planning ahead. Hearing this, Iris smiled sweetly. Sir Curry is truly farsighted. It's no wonder you've been by His Majesty's side the longest. You flatter me, my lady. I'm not in any trouble at the moment, but I know that you are. To think that the news of His Majesty's sudden change in attitude last night had spread so quickly. Iris was shocked. Curry continued calmly, "Don't be nervous, my lady. I know what you want to ask, and I know the answer." Iris fanned herself gently. "Oh? Then please, Sir Curie, do tell." Curry glanced at her. "You wish to ask how to truly win His Majesty's heart to make his favor last, correct?" As expected, those who rose to high positions in the palace were all cunning old foxes. He saw right through her. But Iris wasn't bothered by it. She simply asked Curry what she should do. Curry thought for a moment. He said that winning a man's affection was simple. A pretty face, a few small talents. But winning a man's heart, especially a man like the tyrant, who had seen every kind of woman in the palace, required a truly independent soul. People keep pretty things as pets, but no one keeps a soulmate as a pet. My lady, I have said all I can. As for what to do next with your intelligence, I'm sure I don't need to say more. Curry's words were a revelation to Iris. She was determined to make the tyrant fall head over heels for her. She thanked Curry profusely. In the days that followed, Iris studied literature day and night. One day, the tyrant suddenly appeared. Seeing her returning so late, his tone was sharp. "You dare make me wait?" Iris was startled, but her expression quickly changed to one of pity. "Your Majesty, I thought you didn't want to see me these past few days." The tyrant stepped closer, tilting her chin up, his voice possessive. "Whether I see you or not, you are to wait in your chambers. I don't like to wait." Iris jumped into his arms, cajoling him slightly. "All right, Your Majesty, don't be angry. I understand." He then asked what she had been doing, and she told him the truth. But as soon as he heard she had been with Vanderland again, he became jealous and snatched the book from her hand. "I'll get you a new literature tutor tomorrow." He then added authoritatively, "My decisions are to be followed, not questioned." Iris suddenly remembered her conversation with Curry. She gathered her courage and refused him, deciding to take a gamble. Hearing her, the tyrant's face changed. "You're defying me?" Iris decided to stand firm. "Your Majesty, Teacher Vanderland is an excellent teacher, and I have learned a great deal. Without a special reason, I do not wish to change tutors." In a flash, the tyrant drew his sword and pointed it at her. "Then you must be prepared to die." "Do you really think I won't kill you?" But Iris had anticipated this when she refused him. This wasn't the first time he had drawn his sword on her, but this time, she wasn't as afraid. She swore she would become the woman of his heart, and she bravely confessed her intention. "The woman of your heart?" Hearing those words, the tyrant was moved. Iris continued, "It means someone who will walk beside you through all the storms and hardships ahead. Someone who will live and die with you." Walk beside you, live and die with you. The tyrant seemed to have heard this phrase somewhere before. He was lost in thought. Suddenly, he remembered his mother's words. "The person your mother loves most is your father, because I am his wife. Abel, one day you will also meet your beloved partner. You will walk side by side, living and dying together." The tyrant had once again fallen into her gentle trap. This time, he asked with more patience, "What does this have to do with changing your literature tutor?" "Your Majesty is such a brilliant and wise man. To be your partner, I must be exceptional. I need to learn from the best teacher to improve quickly," Iris said with a hint of a playful pout. Hearing this, the tyrant decisively sheathed his sword. Her foresight surprised him once again. But in the end, he still said stubbornly that he would check on her progress at any time. His behavior reminded Iris of her own father, who used to test her on her studies. But at least she had finally managed to make the man change. Although he said this was the last time, Iris knew that one success would lead to many more. Since he had yielded to her, it was time to give him a sweet reward. Iris invited him to stay the night. She wrapped herself around him, offering a deep kiss, and shyly telling him that her heart and her body were thinking of him. Hearing this, the lecherous tyrant excitedly swept her into his arms and eagerly tore at the fabric of her dress. After whatever he did next, Iris had tears in the corners of her eyes as she said with extreme satisfaction, "I like it." Suddenly, she rolled over, pinning him down, and whispered seductively in his ear, "Your Majesty, I have an idea." The tyrant held her close, looking at her with interest. "Tell me." Iris sensually caressed his skin, her watery eyes blinking, looking incredibly endearing. He thought she had some new, exciting idea, but her expression suddenly turned serious. "Your Majesty is knowledgeable in all subjects, especially in politics and military strategy, which are unparalleled. If you were to teach me, I believe I would grow much faster." Without a second thought, the tyrant refused. He picked her up and strode toward the soft bed, generously offering to only engage in deep exchanges with her. This was all within Iris's expectations. She knew he wouldn't agree at first. Mastering literature and history wasn't enough. Her real goal was to understand politics and military affairs. She cupped his face and smiled sweetly. "It's fine if your Majesty won't teach me, but could I study politics and military strategy on my own?" The girl was the person he cherished most. The tyrant quickly agreed to her request and immediately sent for the books. With her goal achieved, Iris no longer resisted his advances. The tyrant then pulled her into a deep kiss. One day, Iris went to see the animal tamer, Sophia, to check on the progress of the task she had assigned. But Sophia just smiled wryly, saying she hadn't completed all of it. Hearing this, Iris thought she might have misjudged her. Perhaps Sophia wasn't suited for this kind of work and she should assign her something else. But she patiently consoled the girl, saying that building an intelligence network in the palace was no easy task. It was all right if she hadn't succeeded, as long as she had tried her best. Hearing this, Sophia realized the lady had misunderstood her. She covered her mouth and whispered, "That's not it. I have spies everywhere in the palace except around His Majesty. I just couldn't find a way to get close to him." Most people would be lucky to have informants in half the palace, but she had even tried to place spies around the tyrant. This girl wasn't just a novice, she was a true master. Iris was stunned. She cleared her throat to hide her awkwardness, then patted the girl's shoulder. "You've done very well. As for placing spies around His Majesty, there's no rush. We can take it slow." Iris then handed her some money. Money may be crass, but it's needed everywhere. Sophia gladly accepted the money, saying she happened to need it to buy a good bird. It turned out the girl also trained birds. Hearing this, Iris looked at her with admiration. Sophia explained that she was originally skilled at training birds, but because His Majesty disliked birds, she had started training other animals. Iris was curious about the special techniques for bird training, but Sophia just scratched her head helplessly. It was a family secret she couldn't share. Since it was a family secret, Iris didn't press further. However, she had heard of people who were exceptionally good at communicating with birds and asked if that was what their secret was. "Yes, it's our family's pride." "You can speak with birds?" Hearing this, a faint smile appeared on Iris's lips. A bold idea began to form in her mind. The next day, he made a sudden appearance at lunch. Iris asked him why he had come so unexpectedly. The tyrant ate his lunch gracefully, his tone slightly serious. "I hear you've been getting close to a female animal tamer. Is this true?" Iris froze. She had thought her meetings with Sophia were discreet, but it seemed she had underestimated the tyrant's control over the palace. He leisurely speared a piece of food from her plate. "Why aren't you saying anything?" The tyrant was a deeply suspicious man. If Iris didn't explain herself clearly today, it would lead to another ordeal. She admitted she had been seeing Sophia, the animal tamer, frequently, but said it was because she had asked for her help with something very important. Hearing this, the tyrant guessed she was preparing a birthday gift for him, and a happy smile spread across his face. Before leaving, he reminded her not to disappoint him on his birthday. To catch up to the tyrant's level, the girl had been studying literature with Vanderland. But after class today, Vanderland suddenly stopped her. He had heard she had saved a group of ladies in waiting from the tyrant and was very surprised. He greatly admired her, saying she was the first woman he had ever seen who could change the tyrant's mind. Iris was pleased by his praise, but remembering how he had rejected her offer of friendship before, she asked him again if she was now qualified to be his friend. Hearing this, Vanderland walked over to her and teased, "My lady, you certainly hold a grudge." He then adopted a serious expression and said with a small smile, "My lady, you are indeed stronger than before, but as for being friends, let me think about it some more." He had rejected her alliance again, which was expected. After all, the Vanderland family was the oldest and most loyal family in the empire. The tyrant had relied on their support to stabilize his rule when he ascended the throne. Legend had it that their family possessed a token from the founding king, which could command both the monarch and the army. A man of his stature was not easily won over, but if Iris could gain their support, it would be immensely beneficial to her. "If there's nothing else," Vanderland said, bidding her farewell. Watching him leave, Iris thought, since he's a big fish, I'll just have to be patient. She was confident she could make Teacher Vanderland join her willingly. The tyrant had been up late reading official reports. A major disaster had struck the south, leaving the common people starving. To make matters worse, the official sent to distribute relief supplies had embezzled the food. He angrily threw the reports on the floor and roared, "These greedy officials! I'll have them all executed on the spot." The tyrant hadn't been this angry in a long time. Curry stood by, not daring to breathe. Just then, a woman's voice floated in. Iris entered with a smile, carrying a tray of food. She had heard His Majesty hadn't eaten and had brought him some snacks. She gently reminded him that while state affairs were important, he shouldn't neglect his health. But with the disaster unresolved, he had no appetite. Seeing him so troubled, Iris quickly said she had an idea that might help. This immediately piqued his interest. He asked her what it was. Iris picked up a snack and looked at him patiently, saying she would tell him if he ate something. The tyrant obediently complied, letting her feed him. Iris then suggested changing the relief food from rice to brown rice mixed with bran. Brown rice with bran was hard to eat, but it was cheap and filling. the goal of disaster relief was to save as many lives as possible, not to feed a few people well. Her words were a revelation to the tyrant. This way, the brown rice would be worthless to corrupt officials, preventing embezzlement, 2 birds with 1 stone. He marveled at his pet's wisdom. He could no longer see her as just a pretty face. He immediately ordered Curry to carry out the plan. With the troublesome matter settled, the tyrant was in a great mood. He took her hand, saying she had helped him greatly and deserved a good reward. "What kind of reward?" she blurted out. The tyrant suddenly pulled her onto his lap. "The reward of attending to me in bed tonight." Iris blushed, saying she had to study later. But the tyrant, like a tempting demon, wouldn't let her go. "Are books better looking than me?" He slowly lifted her into his arms, pressed his lips to hers, and said he couldn't wait. It had to be in the study tonight. Iris was stunned. But knowing the tyrant's nature, she responded to him as she usually did. After a moment of kissing, she suddenly pushed him down, leaned over him, and shyly whispered that she wanted to try something different. "Tonight, there is no king, no concubine. I am just your majesty's most obedient student." Just moments after their intimate encounter, the tyrant told her that he had received news that the Magandi Empire would be attending his birthday celebration, and the Prince of Magandi would be among them. This was a rare opportunity for Iris to get her revenge. The tyrant saw the hostility in her eyes and deliberately tested her by asking if she wanted to kill the man. Iris took a deep breath and asked if he would allow her to do so. The tyrant pursed his lips and remained silent for a moment before saying that if the Prince of Magandi died in the Heinrich Empire, it would cause a great deal of trouble. At his words, Iris deflated like a sad doll. She lowered her head and told him she understood. Even though he knew she was angry, he still asked what was wrong. Iris then pulled away from him and, following palace etiquette, bowed. She said it was getting late and she needed to rest. Watching her leave, the tyrant didn't fly into a rage as usual. He actually found her anger to be lively and cute. He would have to make it up to her later. Back in her chambers, Iris could no longer contain her anger. She grabbed a nearby teacup and threw it. She was furious that the person she hated most was within her reach, yet she could do nothing. She was willing to give her own life to kill the Prince of Magandi and avenge her family and people. Just then, a maid entered, saying Sir Curie was asking to see her. After composing herself, she went to the main hall. She found his late-night visit strange and assumed it must be something important. Seeing her confusion, Curie quickly explained that he had come for 2 reasons: to offer a way to appease His Majesty's anger, and to give her some advice. He told her that now was not the right time for revenge. She was the last of the Rekil royal bloodline, and it wasn't worth sacrificing her life to fight him. Hearing this, Iris sat up and asked what she should do. Curie patiently explained that, to deal with an enemy, one must be able to defeat them in a single blow. Until then, she had to endure. Sensing her reluctance, he added that although it was painful, it was also a form of training. Curie's advice helped her see things more clearly. She told him she wouldn't act rashly, but she wouldn't do nothing either. She would collect some interest. At dawn, Iris went to find the tyrant and asked for a favor. Hearing this, he was taken aback. He figured he had upset her yesterday, so he would grant her request as long as it wasn't too outrageous. He expected her to ask about the Prince of Magandi, but surprisingly, she asked to be in charge of the birthday celebration. She said it was the first birthday she would celebrate with him, and she wanted to do it herself. The man was silent for a moment, then leaned in close, saying he would agree, but on one condition. But first, she had to pass his test and prove she was capable of organizing the birthday banquet. The condition was simple enough. Iris smiled and took his hand. "Please come with me, Your Majesty." She led him to the main hall, where the ladies-in-waiting she had saved were gathered. She had investigated all of them. Only those with a clean background and good character were allowed to stay in the palace, where their food and lodging were managed under a unified system. This way, even if they had any ulterior motives, they couldn't easily act on them. After hearing her report, the tyrant saw her in a new light. Stripping them of some freedom did indeed prevent a lot of trouble. "You can organize the birthday banquet, but I must remind you, it's best to always leave some room for maneuver, otherwise you won't be irreplaceable." Hearing this, Iris suddenly became nervous. Was he dissatisfied with something again? However, he continued, "You are my woman now. It's fine if you do things that aren't too out of line." Seemingly afraid of angering her, he added, "At least for now, you are irreplaceable." He then leaned in and gave her a light peck on the lips. Perfect mix of kindness and authority. The art of a true ruler. A moment later, her lips were red and swollen from his kisses, but he was still not satisfied. He lifted her chin. "You're not even concentrating when we kiss." Iris blushed, saying she had just thought of something related to him. She then stood on her toes, leaning in close. "Majesty, I have a gift for you." "A gift?" he asked, surprised. "What is it?" Iris remained mysterious, telling him he would find out if he came to her chambers tonight. That evening, the tyrant arrived as promised. Iris greeted him wearing a warm-colored robe, her clothes underneath barely visible, looking exceptionally sexy. Confused, he asked, "Where's the gift?" "Watch closely, Your Majesty." Iris turned her back to him and slowly let the robe fall. The tyrant stared at her back, momentarily stunned. She had tattooed the silk tree flower he had drawn onto her skin. He reached out and slowly caressed the skin on her back, then wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Do you know what tattoos represent in the Heinrich Empire?" Iris turned around, her face flushed. "It's because I know that I did it." In Heinrich tradition, a tattoo represented eternal devotion, the most sincere and profound love and worship for a person. Iris said she had done it precisely because she knew this. She truly loved the tyrant. Hearing her moving words, the tyrant couldn't help but lovingly kiss her back, whispering, "Did it hurt?" Faced with his rare display of affection, Iris started to act coquettishly. She looked at him with pitiful eyes, saying it hurt a lot, and he had to make it up to her. At her words, he immediately swept her up by the waist and walked toward the bed. "Iris, you always know how to make me happy." He then gently guided her. "Wrap your arms around me." Iris obediently wrapped her arms around his neck, and their bodies pressed together tightly. Soon they were both drenched in sweat, breathing heavily, completely lost in their passion. As dawn broke, they finally stopped. Iris caressed his chest and asked sweetly if she could borrow a few capable ladies in waiting to help her. Organizing his birthday banquet was a major event, and she wouldn't be able to handle it alone. Hearing her words, the tyrant understood her intentions immediately. She wanted to bring the animal tamer Sophia to her side, but thinking that she would need to establish herself in the palace, and that would require loyal subordinates, he readily agreed. He told her that since she had saved them, she could use them as she saw fit, and didn't need to ask for his permission in the future. One day, Iris summoned Sophia. She led her to a set of chambers and told her this would be her new home. Since she would be working by her side, she had arranged new living quarters for her. Sophia was deeply moved by her lady's thoughtfulness and immediately pledged her unwavering loyalty. The tyrant's birthday banquet was approaching, and envoys from various countries were arriving in the capital. While Iris had made official arrangements for their reception, she needed someone to keep an eye on things behind the scenes. She entrusted this task to Sophia. Then, as if remembering something else, she leaned in close and whispered with her for a moment. "This is very important to me," she said, asking Sophia to be extremely careful. In a few days, she would see the Prince of Magandi again. Thinking about the arrangements for that day, Iris was filled with confidence. She had a way to make him bow his arrogant head. She had just finished planning, but before the story could unfold, the villainous second male lead made an early appearance. Just a moment ago, Iris was leisurely reading a book, when a maid burst in frantically. Sophia had run into trouble at the inn where the foreign envoys were staying. For some reason, the envoys were arguing incessantly, and Sophia didn't know how to handle it. She had sent a message asking Iris for help. Iris didn't hesitate. She put down her book and immediately went alone. She arrived at an inn, opened the door, and called out, "Sophia!" But when she stepped inside, she froze, her body trembling with fear. In the center of the hall stood the Prince of Magandi, Tirasi. "Iris, my little prisoner, long time no see." Iris was face to face with her enemy again. The sound of his voice made her instinctively try to flee. Her hand trembled as she reached for the door. But before she could take a step, Tirasi swiftly grabbed her. He leaned in close. "What, have you forgotten your old master now that you have a new one?" There had been no argument. It was all a trap set by this demon. He had gotten the upper hand this time, but Iris would not give in easily. "Let go of me," she fought back. But the demonic man pressed closer, lightly licking her earlobe. Iris was horrified and pushed him away. "Tirasi, you slaughtered my kingdom. I will make you pay with your blood." Her harsh words didn't anger the demon. Instead, they reignited his desire to conquer her. He said that untamable pets were the most fascinating. Hearing this, Iris instinctively backed away, warning him, "This is the Heinrich Empire. I am the king's favored concubine." But the demon acted as if he hadn't heard. He cornered her against a wall. Iris threatened him again. "This will provoke a war between our two nations." "Provoke a war? For you?" Tirasi's tone was full of contempt. He then ripped her dress, pressing himself against her. "Even if I were to kill you right here, no one would investigate." A demon. Truly a demon. Facing him again, Iris was just as powerless. Seeing her terrified expression, Tirasi was greatly pleased, and bit her on the chest. He looked up at her. "Beg me, and I'll let you go." She was the last vestige of the Rikil royal family's dignity. For the sake of revenge, she could submit to anyone, but never to this demon before her. He was a butcher. "Never," Iris retorted. Since she wouldn't submit, Tirasi would have to use force. He slammed her against the wall and pounced on her like a predator. Iris trembled in pain, cursing him. Even in death, she would curse him endlessly. But the more she struggled, the more frenzied he became. He crushed his lips against hers. At that moment, Vanderland burst through the door. "Prince Terasi, do you have any idea what you're doing?" Teresi was shocked and, fearing his authority, immediately released her. Vanderland draped his coat over her and held her trembling body, comforting her in a soft voice. "Don't be afraid, my lady. I'm here to take you home." He then helped her towards the door. A hand blocked their path. "Mr. Vanderland, you can't take her. She is my captive from the war against the Rickhill Kingdom. Against absolute power." Terasi's words held no weight with Vanderland. Instead, he was threatened in return. Vanderland's voice was cold and merciless. "But she is also my only student. Do you wish to make an enemy of the Vanderland family?" Before coming to the Heinrich Empire, Terasi's king had warned him not to offend His Majesty Heinrich or the Vanderland family. Hearing this, Terasi had no choice but to back down. "It seems my captive has good fortune." However, he had not given up on Iris. He swore that one day he would put her back in the cage he had built for her. Although Iris had been rescued, the ordeal had left a deep scar. She was still shaking when she got into the carriage. Vanderland asked gently, "My lady, shall we return to the palace?" At the mention of the palace, Iris became agitated. She didn't want to go back now. Seeing what she had been through today, Vanderland's heart ached. He had heard about her past, but witnessing her ordeal firsthand made him realize just how difficult her journey had been. He gently patted her back. "All right, we won't go back just yet. If you don't mind, I can take you somewhere." Iris looked at him with pitiful eyes and agreed. She asked him to take her to a place where she could temporarily escape. The ups and downs of the day had left her exhausted. She begged him to let her lean on him for a moment. Vanderland knew she was truly tired. He put his arm around her, letting her rest against him. Vanderland held her. "My lady, I don't mind. Rest well. I'll watch over you." Iris leaned against him, and the exhaustion of the day quickly pulled her into a deep sleep. Vanderland looked at her peaceful face, lost in thought. Although she was His Majesty's favored concubine, at this moment, she seemed more like an innocent child. Half an hour later, the carriage arrived at a sea of sunflowers. Vanderland gently woke her. "Iris, we're here." Iris rubbed her sleepy eyes. "Where are we?" Vanderland pointed out the window. "Look, a sunflower field." Seeing the sunflowers, Iris's spirits lifted instantly. She got out of the carriage and began to happily skip through the garden. "I heard that the sunflower is the national flower of the Rickhill Kingdom, so I thought you might like it here." Iris smiled brightly. "Yes, I love it. When I was little, my father would often take my sister and me to the flower fields. It feels like I'm home. I like sunflowers too. Flowers that always face the sun are not easily defeated by wind and rain." Hearing his words, Iris suddenly turned her head. "Mr. Vanderland, are you trying to encourage me?" "Yes, Iris, you are my student. I don't want you to be dragged into the darkness." "Not be dragged into the darkness?" Iris's expression changed, and she let out a small laugh. "Mr. Vanderland, have you ever seen a red sunflower?" "A red sunflower?" Vanderland was shocked. "Terasi led the soldiers of the Magandi Empire to slaughter my country. The fires burned for 7 days and 7 nights, until the blood of my family and people stained the sunflowers in the garden red. I was the only one who survived, but I was locked in a golden bird cage by Terasi, displayed as his trophy." Hearing her recount that tragic story firsthand, Vanderland felt suffocated. He couldn't imagine the pain she must have endured. He stepped forward to hug her. "Iris, I'm so sorry." Iris pushed his hand away. "From the day my country was destroyed, I have been living in the abyss. The only reason I'm still alive is for revenge. I will bury his head in that field of red sunflowers and let the spirits of my people torment his soul." "Mr. Vanderland, you were born into the most powerful family. You have never experienced such pain. What right do you have to tell me not to be dragged into the darkness? I once tried to win you over, but you said I was too weak and refused. Now that you've seen my shame and my weakness, I'm sure you're even less likely to consider an alliance with me." At her words, Vanderland fell silent. Iris understood. "In the future, I will not bother you, teacher, but please do not stand in my way." She bowed to him and asked him to take her back, but Vanderland suddenly grabbed her hand. "Wait, I'm willing." Hearing this, Iris was stunned. "I am willing to walk into the abyss with you, to become the sword in your hand, to help you slay your enemy." Iris was shocked. She didn't understand. She had tried so hard to win him over before, only to be repeatedly rejected. Now that she had given up, he was offering his support. It made her wonder if he had a masochistic streak, but that wasn't it at all. In Vanderland's world, he had never known that the most beautiful thing wasn't a sunflower growing towards the sun, but a wild lily that had been trampled yet still fought to grow. It was only after seeing her scars and her pain that he saw her powerful soul, and that was what truly moved him. She thought today would be a terrible day, but his gesture was her biggest surprise of the night. But whether it was out of pity or admiration, as long as he was truly on her side, she would not refuse. But first, Iris had to be sure. Are you really certain? This could endanger your entire family. From the moment he had rushed out to protect her, Vanderland had been resolute. He told her boldly, I never regret my choices. From now on, I will always stand behind you. That evening, the tyrant came to her chambers again. He playfully made her read to him over and over, but she kept making mistakes. He tapped her on the head with interest. It's not beautiful, it's serene beauty. I'm not reading anymore. Since your majesty already knows it, why make me read? Iris closed the book in a huff. The tyrant suddenly pulled her into his arms. What's wrong? You seem unhappy lately? Thanks to Vanderland's arrangements, the man knew nothing about what had happened that morning. But Iris still felt a lingering fear whenever she thought about it. She couldn't let him see that anything was wrong, so she just complained that the banquet preparations were tiring her out. Organizing a banquet was indeed a lot of work, so it was natural for her to be tired. The tyrant then suggested, how about this? You can accompany me to the royal villa for a few days tomorrow. It's quiet there. You'll be happier. The palace staff said the villa was where the man went for rest and solitude. He had never taken anyone there before. Iris was a little surprised. Your Majesty is taking me to the villa? What, you don't want to go? No, it's just, I'm a little overwhelmed. Hearing this, his tone became affectionate. It pleases me to spoil you. Iris glanced at the maid beside her. Sure enough, the maid who had tricked her into going to the inn that morning was gone. After today's events, she understood that the people around her were not as reliable as she had thought. The tyrant's ruthless handling of betrayal now seemed like a wise move. But before anything similar happened again, she needed to clean house first. So she said to the tyrant, Your Majesty, I need to prepare some things. Tomorrow is a bit too soon. How about we go in 2 days?